Hello Saints Nation, this is John Hogan, Director of Hockey Ops for Maryville University Hockey. We're excited today to be talking to you via Zoom and YouTube and announce that our women's program was granted probationary status at Women's 1 in the ACHA for the 2021 season. And with that, I'd like to open up the floor to any questions.
So first of all, congratulations. How quickly did this come together, and what was the process like?
For us in a Corona world, we had to make some adjustments from a scheduling standpoint, and our plan was always to try to get women's, just like the men's side, to Women's 1. We want to be the best, so we have to play the best, and with Corona going on and different teams not being able to schedule, it made sense for us to try to maybe expedite our growth a little quicker to play teams like McKendree and Lindenwood that are in town. That was the thought process, and we were lucky enough with the ACHA, we were lucky enough with the conference that they granted us this status, and now it's up to us to try to fit it, put it all together and showcase our talent on the ice to make sure that we're competitive and helping the conference, helping out Women's 1 to the best of our abilities.
So do you think having the D1 tag will help with recruiting next year?
That's probably a better question for Tommy, our women's head coach. I think it doesn't matter who you are. I think everyone wants to play at the best level they can, at the highest level they can. So when Tommy is connecting with potential student athletes, I would think that it would help us. For the women's side of hockey, there's no junior hockey. They're playing U18, U19, and they're looking at colleges. They're looking at ACHA 2, ACHA 1, and NCAA opportunities. So I would think with us being a women's ACHA D1 team, I think that will help us.
What made you guys want to make the push to try to turn the women's D1 or D2 team and force it in the first year of its in the program to be D1?
Yeah, in the ACHA, I think it's kind of an unspoken rule right now that they want teams to be competing at the D2 level, if that's men or women's, and then showcase your talent there and prove yourself at those levels before you move up to Division 1. And we were lucky enough at the Division 1 level for men's to help with some restructuring, and we were able to kind of ride a wave there and get to Men's 1 relatively quickly into our second season. We thought it couldn't go any really quicker, and then Corona happened, and then the women's team, we were trying to tackle the scheduling, the financial strains of playing some Division 2 teams that aren't really that close to us. So that is why we made the push, because it helps us financially, helps us from a sustainability standpoint. It doesn't make sense for us to play women's 2 games when we have a women's 1 team in McKendree, a women's 1 team Lindenwood 20 minutes away. And besides maybe a couple teams in Iowa, the closest teams on the women's 2 side are 8-9 hours away. So when the pandemic hit and we had to start reshuffling things, that's why we made the hard push. That's why we tried to get it to Division 1 as quickly as possible, because it makes the most financial sense for us.
Do you know what division you guys will be in as far as the women's D1 team under the ACHA?
Yeah, so we'll be playing under the WMCH, which is that will be our conference, and that will be with it stands for the Women's Midwest Hockey Conference. So under that will be one of 7 teams. The teams will be ourselves, McKendree, Lindenwood, Midland, Minot, Liberty, and Minnesota. So those are the 7 teams that we'll be competing against. Again, they're all Division 1 teams. They're all high caliber teams, and we're excited to play them hopefully here in the second semester.
with moving the women's D2 team to a D1 status, what kind of recruiting do you got to put into that now, knowing that you'll be playing tougher competition? And does this allow you to go further outside of just local areas, much like the men's D1, how there's from all over the world? Is that going to be the same case when it comes to the women's team?
Yeah, I don't, this is still the first year that I get to experience women's hockey, so by no stretch of the imagination am I an expert when it comes to women's hockey. That's why we hired Tommy, and that's why we lean on him so highly for that experience and those expertise. But like I mentioned earlier, I think men's, girls, anyone under the sun, you want to be the best, you want to play the best, and I think this does expand our footprint from maybe from just St. Louis in the Midwest to maybe looking more on the Canadian north of the border, maybe the international front. But I'll let Tommy answer those questions a little more, because their recruiting is much different from men's to women's, and I know that he knows that landscape a lot more than me.
So what do you think this does for the program wide, for the university and both men and women's hockey to expand to D1?
Yeah, I think having a men's 1 and a men's 2 team, we're trying to provide opportunities to kind of a larger group of athletes in the St. Louis area and across the nation, and to be honest, across the world, and giving that same opportunity for girls, at Maryville, at a very inclusive place, and trying to give those opportunities to everyone was, part of having both men's and a women's side of our program. And I think us being elevated to women's 1 shows our passion, shows our drive and our vision for what we want women's hockey to be here at Maryville, where we don't want just to be another women's team. We want to be competing against the McKendrees, the Minotts, the Lindenwoods, really high caliber teams at the women's level. That's where we want to go. That's where we need to get to. And I think this movement, as quickly as it's happened in our history of women's hockey, which again we haven't played a game yet, I think it just showcases the growth mentality we have at Maryville, and the inclusiveness that we try to strive to give to our student athletes.
So, Coach, congratulations on the D1. What kind of process was this for you on a coaching standpoint?
It was a little difficult at times. Obviously, we had some hoops to jump through with being told, as we signed up to be D2, and then moving forward with COVID hitting, it put us in a spot where, schools are folding and not playing sports this year. So it led to where our closest game would almost be 9 hours away after 2 teams. And that's just not feasible, nor friendly and economically for team this year. So we went back to the drawing board and applied again, and thankfully they understood our kind of concerns and moving forward, and this is where we want to be, and we're happy to be here.
When you were recruiting the girls, were they under the understanding it was D2 and this transitioned in between, or how did that work?
It was a little bit of both. So I went in telling them right away, hey, we're applying at D1 because this was pre-COVID, so we put our application in February. When we did that, we made sure that we said to the girls, hey, right now I'm basing my schedule half at D2, half at D1. And I was up front. I said, if we don't get it, we're still going to play 12 to 14 D1 games, and we're going to play 12 to 14 D2 games. And they all understood, because our goal was to be D1 and move forward from there. So it worked out good. And it's still a struggle trying to schedule games now, because some schools don't know if they're going to play still. But all of them are happy, but the unfortunate one is we're on probation. So we are ineligible for nationals, so our big thing is the conference tournament. We win that's like winning nationals. We have a loaded conference, so it's going to be a challenge all year for the girls, and we have a lot of expectations out of them, but there will be growing pains at times.
So, you kind of covered that. So, is there anything different between preparing for D1 and D2, or what kind of style of play do you guys anticipate?
I wouldn't say there's any style difference. Not like I really had a marker to judge off of. You know, I just know from watching Lindenwood, McKendree, Midland, kind of when they came through last year and caught some games. You know, we're going to be a blue-collar team. We're going to work hard. Our cardio is going to be our biggest strength. We're going to wear teams down. You know, we're going to have a little, how do you want to say it? We're going to, you know, we're going to be all over the map as far as kind of, politely how to say, you know, our talent's a little spread this year due to COVID. So, you know, we got 15 players on the team right now still working. We had 2 decommits due to COVID. So, you know, you're kind of playing with the hand you're dealt to an extent due to unforeseen circumstances. But again, our work ethic will set us apart, and we're just going to have to play good defense and, you know, win close games. You know, one thing for me with recruiting is when COVID hit, you know, I had 5 visits lined up, and none of those kids ever came to see campus. So it's, you know, it's a little unique times to try and sell somebody on coming to Maryville without even stepping foot on campus. You can send them pictures, virtual tours, you can talk on the phone, and it's drink your cups of coffee and seal the deal if you can, which makes it unique because most families want to get on the ground, see the blueprint, see what campus life is all about. So, and it's no different this year starting out. I mean, you're still doing the same thing. It's going to be a challenge all around this year until we're able to start scouting and going places and recruiting on time.
Now, talking about the challenges, like you said, not being able to physically visit with people, do you think jumping to the D1 level right away gives you a little bit of a head start towards next year?
Yeah, a little bit, but everybody's in the same playing field as me. You know, the only thing that's unique for me is some of these kids will get to play right away. All of them get to play right away, but even next year stepping in, you know, I'm still looking to get 6 to 8 more kids for next year. So you're only sitting out 1 player a game, where some of these freshmen that are making these choices for 2021, 2022, if they can't go on campus and visit still, they're taking, you know, they're just picking the board saying, I want to go to this school because of those classes, not so much if I play. Or obviously if you want to be a student athlete, you want to play and then see what the school has to offer with your degrees along those lines.
Now, this is something that's out of your guys' hands, obviously, but does the situation going on in the world right now, does that affect people's eligibility? Like if they play this year, does that eat up a year?
That's all determined on games played. If COVID hits and stops us again, you know, ACHA, it's 5 years, right? So you're 5 years of eligibility. So even if they burn 1 this year, you've still got 4 more as long as you're enrolled full-time in school. Where NCAA, they burn a year, and they got to apply for a 5th. Where the ACHA level, you're granted 5 years. If you sit out or redshirt another year, then you can apply for a 6th year. So eligibility, not so much. It's more so how much money do you want to take on for that.
In terms of roster, how's it looking as far as freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors? Are there any players coming in that have been playing at a collegiate level, or is it all just a mix of coming up from high school and maybe 1 year in college?
So we have 3 juniors, 1 sophomore, and 9 freshmen right now. We have another girl that's transferring in a semester, so she'll be a sophomore or junior depending on credit amount, if you want to say it that way. So I wanted to do that so I didn't have 14, 15 freshmen, so it allows me to grow the program and say, this year I got 15, next year I want to get 7 to 8, the next year after that 3 kids graduate, 2 kids graduate, now I can get 6 more that year so I can balance the numbers out versus having 1 large class and now I got to supplement with 12, 13 kids right away.
So as far as the conference goes, I know at D2 you guys weren't going to have a conference. Now all of a sudden you're in with some local rivals like Lindenwood, Kendry, etc. Was that something you guys looked into getting to, or was it just they had an opening and it happened to work out?
No, it was something we were looking into from the start. I had discussions with Midland, the conference commissioner, with Jason White. I coached AAA as the head coach, and Derek Pilardi was my assistant. So I've known Derek since I was 17, 18 years old, and met Andrew last year throughout the time. So it was, it was one of those things where we wanted to be there, and they accepted us. There was no opening. So we're the 7th team. So we're kind of the oddball this year. So whether, they're looking to grow to 8, makes, conference tournaments and showcases make it a little unique with 7 teams, but logistics-wise, it makes sense for us to be here. We got McKendree 45 minutes away, Lindenwood 20 minutes away, Midland is 6.5 hours away, Minnesota's 7.5, and then you've got Minot at 15 and Liberty at 18 or whatever it is to go out east. So we're gonna have to get on the bus and travel some, but we're gonna make do and we're gonna give our best effort.
Anything else? When do you anticipate the schedule to be released?
We're waiting on a few things. We're waiting on other conferences, actually. So we've kind of got probably about 15 games on the books, 14, 15 games. So we're looking at out-of-conference games now. We're talking with Miami of Ohio right now. Kind of waiting to see what the Colorado teams are going to do. So we're looking to figure out something there, but I think we're looking at 20 to 24 games, somewhere in that vicinity. I don't know if John alluded to it, but it's starting January 10th and going through March 28th. I think we got 4 weekends off right now, so fill 1 or 2 of those. Lights turned on for me. So that's what we're looking to do. It'll be a lot of, again, back to the blue-collar mentality of, they're going to have their cardio ready, and with 9 forwards, 4 defensemen, and 2 goalies, they're going to get their playing time, and they're going to have to be ready for the challenge.